Today we're gonna talk about Selmer's newest Claude Delangle Mouthpiece. I own this mouthpiece already for approximately 2 months, and since I got it, it immediately became my daily driver for everything. And I've played several concerts with the mouthpiece and even done a professional audio recording. And today I'm gonna share my experience with you regarding playing this mouthpiece. The first thing you will notice when holding the mouthpiece in the hand, it's the size of its box. It's bigger than the other Selmer mouthpiece boxes. And the reason for that is that you get another wood-made box inside of it. So this gives to the mouthpiece a very premium feeling and of course premium packaging, and I guess Selmer also wants to position this mouthpiece above, let's say, their baseline and present it as a very premium product. Another thing which is also different compared to Selmer mouthpieces is the weight of the mouthpiece. You will notice that it's quite heavy, and I was curious to see how heavy that is, and actually it's almost twice as heavy as usual mouthpieces, for example like a Caesar soloist mouthpiece. And the reason for that is the metal you have implemented into the mouthpiece. This is a gold-plated brass metal, the same metal which Selmer makes their saxophones from. And it goes all the way from the bottom of the mouthpiece through the chamber to approximately the middle of the mouthpiece. So you get plenty of weight on that mouthpiece. So why this weight and why the metal on the mouthpiece? I think in order to understand that, we need to talk what was the philosophy of the sound for this mouthpiece at Selmer. And as far as I know, at the beginning of development, Claude Delangle tried more than 150 mouthpieces, and step by step together they made let's say, a list of wishes, what they want to have there and what they don't. And the idea was to create something which has a very, very powerful sound, very bright sound, something which we know maybe from jazz mouthpieces, but at the same time combined with the very clear accuracy of controlling which were used as a classical saxophonist. So, and in order to achieve that, they put this metal, which adds a lot of weight and vibrates, together with a normal mouthpiece as we know it. And as far as I know, putting that two materials together was technically a very challenging point. However, it seems to be built very solid, and I don't even feel a gap there. Actually, we have seen something like this before. What I mean is the weight, adding weight on a saxophone. There is a thing which is called Klankbrücke, which you put underneath your neck. There are some thumb holders with extra weight. There are some ligatures which add weight on top, and if you read the descriptions of all these products, there is written that it will give you a bigger and brighter sound. And so here what we have is again the weight, except the weight is already at the very beginning of your instrument, and I believe it gives a lot of influence on the sound which you are producing with the saxophone. Another thing which I think has to be mentioned as well is that Selmer has a tradition making mouthpieces together with teachers from Paris Conservatory, and I believe in 1950 there was a mouthpiece together with Marcel Müll, and now 70 years later Selmer is continuing its tradition and making another one with Claude Delangle. So you probably are wondering, how does it sound like? What is it like to play this mouthpiece? I can tell you it is a very, very powerful mouthpiece, and first time as I tried it, my quartet colleagues were there, and we all were very shocked how powerful that is. And they even told me if I get that mouthpiece, they will have to find something else in order to keep up with me with the race of sound. But actually, after a few days having it in my hands, and after knowing it a little bit better, I was able to control it very well, and actually it worked for me extremely fine within the quartet. There are two things I would like to tell you about the mouthpiece. The one is more obvious, at least for me it was like this, and the one I could only realize after listening to myself in a recording. So the first one was that I could immediately feel that the sound was in a way bigger and brighter, and I had also overall very nice and pleasant experience with the articulation all over the instrument. But the other thing I believe is even more important. During one of the recording sessions with my quartet and a percussionist, we went to listen if we need to make some adjustments, and I remember there was a spot which I played on the soft side, but still in that recording room I could listen myself very crystal clear, and I even asked the engineer if he had some support for the alto saxophone, and he told me no, this is the total microphone for everybody. So I'm not talking about playing loud or being too loud, I'm talking about being very clear. Especially in a quartet, it happens many times that as a middle voice, like alto or tenor saxophone, depending on acoustics and some pieces, it happens that these voices, they tend to go under. But this mouthpiece has something which makes it so clear but not loud at the same time, and that makes really fun to play and of course to listen as well. I believe one of the biggest and most important points for any mouthpiece is with how many reeds will it play, because we are trying to find a reed for a mouthpiece and not a mouthpiece for a reed. So I'm very happy that in my case the mouthpiece could work with all of these reeds very well. Of course there were some differences, but these are the differences I've seen with the same reeds with different mouthpieces, so I believe these are more of the reed characteristic differences. And so we can tell this mouthpiece is a very universal. One thing maybe you should know, this mouthpiece has an opening of 165, I believe, and it means some of the reeds, in my case for example, they were too hard, because before I used to play soloist C-star mouthpiece, and with that era 3.0 plus, and for this mouthpiece it's a little bit on the hard side, so I had to soften down, but at the end I still get the same amount of resistance and it works just fine. So what's the conclusion? I believe Selmer hit here a very sweet spot and combined many good characteristics into this mouthpiece. I think the most important point is that you get something new which you couldn't have before because of this metal ring. I believe you get new sound colors which you can make influence into your personal sound and create something you didn't have it before. You had no ability to create it before because of the material. Well, of course, this is actually a very expensive mouthpiece. I believe in Germany it costs around 250 euros, and this is the most expensive Selmer mouthpiece for the alto saxophone. You still get a piece of metal which is gold plated, and compared to some jazz mouthpieces it's actually not so expensive. So I believe if you have a chance, try it out. Maybe consider some softer reeds to bring with you in order to manage the resistance and see if it can fit you. That's it for today. Thanks for watching and enjoy the spring.